So, I had this moment last week. I was standing in the kitchen reheating the same sad pasta I've microwaved 4 times already, because apparently I can't even commit to finishing leftovers in one sitting, and I suddenly thought, is this it? Is this the rest of my life? 9-5, reheat, scroll, regret, sleep, repeat. Now, maybe you've had a similar moment. You stare out a rainy window like you're walking through a scene you've imagined 100 times, whispering to yourself, there has to be more than this. And right after that thought, boom, enter the algorithm. You find motivational gurus on the internet. I call them the passive income bros with their YouTube thumbnails screaming, quit your job or make 10K a month. Some even promise freedom in 30 days, which sounds great until you realize you've watched 19 of those videos and you're still in bed with your pasta, which is now cold. So hi, I'm Ollie, the overthinker, and this is my painfully honest attempt to explain why most of us feel trapped and why escaping the 9-to-5 isn't as simple as quitting your job and learning how to sell air on the internet. So let's get into it. Here's the part no one tells you. You don't hate your job just because of the job. You hate what it's doing to your sense of identity. Because every day you wake up and play a role. You sit in Zoom meetings where you nod like a bobblehead. You type things like per my last email while dying inside. And slowly you become someone you don't recognize. Someone who dreams big at night and plays small by day. The truth is, we weren't taught how to think for ourselves. We were taught how to follow instructions. Color inside the lines, submit on time, don't ask why. We were trained to be efficient, not free. So when someone says, just start a business, it hits weird because your brain, even my brain, all of our lovely overthinking brains, they don't know how to operate without a syllabus and a deadline. Freedom sounds amazing until it feels like chaos. If you've already nodded at least 3 times, you might as well subscribe now. It's free, unlike therapy, and slightly more caffeinated. So, what's the way out? I used to think it was skills. Learn to edit, learn to code, or even learn to flip digital goat NFTs. Okay, maybe not that one. But eventually, I realized it's not just what you learn. It's how you learn to think. Because escaping the 9-to-5 isn't about adding more tasks. It's about unlearning the programming that told you your value is based on output. You need to start thinking like someone who builds, not just someone who obeys. And no, this doesn't mean becoming some hustle culture psycho who wakes up at 4 a.m. to do cold showers and scream at a vision board. It means rewiring your operating system. Here's how mine used to work. When a problem arises, I would panic. When an opportunity appears, I would assume I'm not ready. When a new idea sparks, I would overthink it into extinction. Do you want to know how my brain works now? I actually still panic, but I panic forward. That's progress, right? Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you've quit your job. You finally have freedom. You wake up on Monday and no one tells you what to do. There's no meeting, no boss, no to-do list, just you and silence. And your 17 open Chrome tabs titled Side Hustle Idea Maybe. This is where most people freeze. Because we never learned how to generate momentum from within. We learned how to react, not how to initiate. That's why so many people go back, not because they failed, but because freedom without direction feels scarier than structure without fulfillment. And unless you build that inner compass, you'll keep ending up in someone else's version of success. Are you still with me? Either this is hitting something deep or you just enjoy long monologues from a person who clearly drinks too much iced coffee. Either way, I'm glad you're here. Feel free to blink dramatically if this is low-key describing your life. Now let's talk about identity. We're told, find your passion, do what you love, follow your bliss. But what if you don't know what you love? What if your bliss is just sleep? When you've spent your entire adult life trying to survive, dreaming starts to feel like a luxury you can't afford. But here's what I learned the hard way. Clarity doesn't come before action. It comes because of action. You build confidence by doing. You figure out what lights you up by trying things and sucking at most of them. And you don't magically become a creator, freelancer, entrepreneur, or whatever. You decide to be one, and then you earn that identity through repeating. You start by making stuff you're embarrassed by. You keep going. You learn to cringe a little less, and eventually you start to believe yourself. Not because someone gave you permission, but because you saw your own proof. And I promise, that kind of proof, it sticks. So yeah, let's talk about what actually worked. Not the YouTube gurus screaming into their mics about 10 income streams, not the side hustle spreadsheets that made me feel like I was building a small empire when I was really just doodling logos in Canva at 1 a.m. Nope, what worked was one painfully simple thing: making something small and sharing it anyway. I remember posting my first digital product. It was a Notion template for creative overthinkers. Yes, that's a real niche. And yes, I was the only customer for 3 weeks. But then someone bought it for $5. I sat there, staring at the Stripe notification like I just won an Oscar, except instead of thanking my parents, I thanked my anxiety for keeping me up long enough to finish it. And that's the moment something shifted. It wasn't just about money, it was about the realization that I didn't have to be the best, I just had to be useful to one person in one moment, in my own awkward, slightly self-deprecating way. That's what freedom looks like in the beginning. Not 6 figures, not viral growth, just proof that your weird little brain can offer something of value. Now here's where people get stuck again. They wait for certainty. They wait for validation. Or they wait for the perfect niche, the perfect time, the perfect platform. But the truth is, you become untrapped by building while unsure. Even now, with a few wins behind me, I still have days where I think, this is dumb. I'm not built for this. Maybe I should go back to the predictable misery of the 9-to-5. But I don't. Not because I'm brave, but because I remember how bad it felt to feel invisible. And building, even when it's messy, makes you visible to yourself and eventually to others. If this is hitting somewhere in your chest right now, good, because that means something inside you is still alive, still reaching, still fighting. Maybe hit like or comment, this is too real, so I know I'm not alone in this spiral. Let me share something else I learned the embarrassing way. You don't scale freedom by doing more. Early on, I tried to be on every platform: YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Pinterest for some reason. I burned out trying to be relevant instead of real. So I picked one thing, one lane, one platform, and I asked, how can I help people like me a few steps behind? Not as a guru, not as an expert, just as a slightly less confused version of who I was. Also, can we talk about comparison for a second? Because yeah, I know. You see someone blow up in 6 months and suddenly you're questioning everything about your pace, your voice, your fonts, your existence. You're not behind. You're just building something real, and real takes time. And the reason your RPM is low, or your subs are slow, or your views are stuck, it's probably not because your content sucks. It's because the internet rewards speed, not depth. But real humans, they stick around for depth. Now here is the final truth bomb. You will feel like quitting. Probably soon, maybe even right after this video, because progress is sneaky. It hides behind moments where it looks like nothing's working. But I promise, if you keep showing up, even inconsistently, even imperfectly, the results will compound. Not just externally, but internally too. You'll think differently, act differently, and will trust yourself more. You'll start making decisions from a place of potential, not panic. And that, my friend, is the real escape from the 9-to-5. Because the truth is, no one is coming to save you. Not your boss, not the algorithm, not that someday version of yourself. It's on you to show up, to try things that might flop, to ignore the voice in your head that says you're not ready. Because you probably aren't. But ready is a myth anyway, built by people who don't take action. You escape the 9-to-5 the moment you stop asking for permission. The moment you start acting like your life is your responsibility. And honestly, that version of you is way closer than you think. If any part of this script made you feel like you're not alone, do me a favor, hit subscribe. Or don't, I'll overanalyze the silence either way. But seriously, your support means more than I let on. Probably because I'm emotionally repressed, I'm Ollie, still doubting, still uploading, still figuring it out in public. Let's keep going, together.